Bonjour, bonjour, and in this video, 5 tips to know the gender of French nouns. My friend, French gender roles. What are they? How does it even work? Complex? Maybe, but this is exactly what we're covering in this video. And now, I got a quick question for you right before we begin. What is this? Did you know that this bird you can see on screen right now with a black head and olive upper parts, well, the kind of bird you'll see flying above and beyond the parks of the City of Lights in Paris, well, that bird is called a great tit. And yes, a great tit. It's a really nice great tit. And in Paris there are a lot of great tits, but in this video you are going to learn 5 ways to identify noun genders in French. The same principles that allow you to identify a gender in many, many situations without having to look it up. And here are the tools that will allow you to do that right now. So let's remove the bird and let's begin. Let's get this show on the road. Tip number 1. You'll find that in French, some endings reveal the gender of a noun. For example, if you have a word that ends in ure, like architecture, can you repeat after me? Une architecture. Correct. Une architecture. Well, usually it's a telltale that you will have a feminine word. Same goes for words that end with T and E, like this one, réalité. La réalité. Another word, passion. La passion. Passion. Une option would be another word. ION, feminine form. This is pretty cool to know these things. IE is another sign that you will have a feminine form of the word. So, la stratégie. La stratégie. Et, it would be la vinaigrette. Very easy to translate in English, to translate that in English. And then we have S, la sagesse. All right? So far, so good. A bunch of endings, URE, TE, ION, IE, ETTE, and ESSE. The masculine endings that reveal or that hide a masculine word would be isme, like un idéalisme, or IER, un palmier, ENT, le vent. It's funny that wind is a masculine word. EAU, un seau, a bucket. AIL would be un portail, le portail, and AGE, un massage. Okay, this is tip number 1. Look for the ending. Is the ending of the word that you're stumbling upon one of those that we've just covered? Maybe. If this is the case, then you can really just tell that is going to be that kind of word, although there are exceptions to that rule. So I'm not saying you'll be right 100% of the time, but nearly 100% of the time. So it's a tip worth giving, in my opinion. And this leads us to tip number 2. And tip number 2, there we have nouns linked to a specific gender, usually remain in that gender. So, well, that means that a mother is probably going to be feminine in French, okay? And we can see that on screen. The father is masculine. And well, this is helpful to some extent because sometimes you have like a profession and a profession doesn't tell you whether it is a man or a woman. But anyhow, this is tip number 3 now. And you'll find that some nouns always stay masculine or feminine regardless of their gender, just like the doctor. So if you picture someone who has a big beard and she's a woman and she's a doctor too, well, is still masculine. You know, even though she has a beard and she's a doctor and she's a female, but still it's a masculine, if that makes sense. And same for the painter. You can have a tall woman with long legs and a red dress, almond-shaped eyes. Well, she's a painter, but it would be le peintre, because le peintre doesn't change forms. This is a rule. Same applies to the person, except this time is going to be the feminine form. So sometimes I hear students say, oh, je vois la personne qui est vêtue, so that is wearing something, and thinks that person, because it's a man, is going to be conjugated in the masculine form, which is not the case, because la personne is feminine always. That doesn't change. And you know, it's can be maybe sexist to narrow down the name of a profession to a certain gender. I guess now that something a bit like debatable whether these rules need to change or not. Especially because in this case it's the masculine forms that prevails, right? A doctor is a man, right? And a painter is a man, the masculine form. So what do you think? Is it something that is worth changing or not? I believe that rules help us make sense of things that do not necessarily make sense, and I have no problem calling a woman a doctor in the masculine form because it's only a word. It's not something much more important than a word in this case, although probably a lot of person would disagree with what I'm saying. And leads us to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is, well, you have a bunch of names in French that change their endings according to the gender, which is the case of a dog. Le chien becomes la chienne, masculine, feminine. In English, it's a dog, right? A cat, le chat, becomes la chatte in French. So you can start looking for that kind of ending in French. And you'll find that most of the time, those endings apply to other nouns, and that you can use different endings in the French language simply because you know how to conjugate. No, not conjugate. Simply because you know how to put some nouns in the feminine form. Well, it can be done also thanks to the words that you already know. The boulanger, the baker. La boulangère, the baker. Try repeating after me. Le boulanger. La boulangère. Excellent. I'm not sure I'm hearing you right now because, you know, we're not exactly talking to each other, or maybe we are somehow. And in that case, great job. Le chanteur, la chanteuse. The singer becomes the singer. Le spectateur, la spectatrice. Member of the audience, member of the audience. Le spectateur, la spectatrice. And of course, you also have words that change entirely. Like a horse and a mare in English, you can have un cheval et une jument in French. And those you need to study, of course. And by now you're probably wondering, you know, it's not that bad after all. You know, French is really not that difficult. And you'd be mostly right until it gets more complex because there's so many words to study, so many different choices, what to pick. You're in front of a buffet of words, and then sometimes you want to go for the strawberry flavor, and at other times it's going to be the almond with pecan nuts in it. You have no idea. Well, the thing is, there are rules that help you put words in categories. And those rules, helpfully, are going to help you. I really hope they do, because it is my job as a teacher to organize the unorganizable. And funnily enough, the French language, if it could talk, would probably say, let's complexify. If you like complexities and challenges, things that have you push out of your comfort zone, the French language is a great pick. On top of having great tits in the City of Lights. Tip number 5. And that one might be a problem nowadays because when both masculine and feminine form a subject, the masculine form wins. This is the rule. I didn't make the rule. Isabelle et Grégoire sont boulangers. Isabelle is certainly a woman. Grégoire, certainly a man. However, we're gonna have a word here that is in the plural form. It's gonna be in the masculine form of the plural. So masculine, you have a woman and a man. Masculine form wins. However, when you have feminine and feminine, of course, then you still have the feminine form in the plural. Isabelle et Lucie sont boulangères. And that wraps it up for this video, but it's not over. Of course, it's not over yet, because now doesn't come the question of whether or not there is an exercise. Because, of course, there is an exercise. And rather the question is, will you do the exercise? Will you complete this video's exercise? Will you take the next step? And will you do it now? Consolidate this video's knowledge, cement it once and for all, so it doesn't so it's not forgotten forever, possibly, in the abyss of memory, so you can move on to something else. Well, it's up to you. You decide. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and see you soon.